You guys already know MB&F is my absolute favorite independent, starting from the man down to the actual watches. We had a full-blown visit at the M.A.D house.
We have a camera because you want to know exactly where the 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗍𝗄𝗽 is eating. You need people that are highly trained to be able to do that, but they are so proud of what they are doing. And that's something that is lost now in the industrial way of doing watches.
This is where the passion is. This is where true horology lives, and this is what it's all about. This is independent watchmaking. Of course, the part I was mostly looking forward to is my favorite independent. So we find ourselves, you guessed it, at the M.A.D house. Let's go see what the M.A.D house is all about and look at some M.A.D watches. What do you think this cost them, this building? How old is the building?
1907.
1907.
So a little bit more than 100 years.
The contrast, though, is you have it literally is MB&F. You have this old school building and you have this modern buildings all around.
You will do the tour yourself. I don't need to do anything. It's exactly that. Let's have a look to where the magic happened.
Like my very first day, I said I'm dedicating my first day in Geneva to independent watchmakers for that very reason, because there's still a personal touch. There's still that you can shake the hand of a watchmaker. You can see how it's being made. You still have the old school tradition. Yes, you may have modern technology today, but the old school traditions, the personal touch behind it is what watchmaking is all about. And I'm really, really hoping that get away from the hype slightly and get back into what watchmaking used to be, and that's very personal.
At the end, what I'm saying most of the time is that we are working on useless products. There is no point today to spend so many components and complications to get the date on your wrist. I mean, there is no point. We have phones, we have computers that I can do that. So what's the point of trying to make it super industrialized? And so, I mean, it's traditional. It's just like the beauty. It's supposed to be artisan doing that the old way. It's really about the emotion you have when you put that on the wrist, when you meet the watchmaker, when you meet the designer, and so it's all about that.
That's why I like our horological machines, because half the time you don't know how to tell the time, or at least most people don't.
So we do have even a workshop 1 kilometer away from us here in 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗄𝗽 that will do all the machining. So we do have a few examples here that you will be able to see. So we are today able to do 80% of our case, being the legacy machines or the HMs range, internally. Only the extremely complex HMs, such as HM11, HM10 Bulldog, and HM9, is made by another supplier, but the rest of the models, we can make that in-house. And same for the component, we are doing 25% of the components in-house. Really complex components, such as the base plate. The base plate is really like the heart of the movement. That's where almost all the screws will be positioned, and so that's where the base where you build the movement. Pieces like that, you need 500 operations to be able to have all the holes at the right position, with the right depth, with the different diameters, because sometimes even one hole, as you can see here, has different depth depending on the position vertically of the element. So we do that. Then after, you need to send to the other supplier that will do the finishing, that will do the coloring, and so at the different steps, we can go up to, for some components, 10 different suppliers being involved before the final components is being validated and used by the watchmakers. MB&F is well known for the balance bridge that you can see here. So we start from massive inlet of metal like that. With the CNC machines, we'll do a first step, second step, and then after, that's where the magic happens, where people in the Vallée de Joux will spend hours and days just to make it polished, to have the hand polishing that you can see here. You have to imagine that there is no straight line here. So to be able to have anything that is smooth in the design, you need to spend hours and hours. Straight lines are cool, but I mean, between an industrial movement like that and something hand polished like that, I mean, that's a huge difference at the end.
And this case itself is just...
The case itself. That's for the HM11. Incredible. In terms of development of the new calibers, for example, here, I mean, that's a pretty cool tour. We have a camera, so it's, of course, magnifying, but you are going here, for example, at 7,000 images per second. Because you want to know exactly where the 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗍𝗄𝗽 is eating. What's the part that is going here? Do we need to readjust a little bit slightly more? Which is something that with your naked eyes and the binoculars that are the traditional tools, you will not be able. It's incredible. Look at the reaction of the reset function. So here we decided to be able to show people how complex the pieces are. So we are close to 590 components here.
When they take those 500 some parts and they put them in a piece of lucite, low-key, I would mind having that in my office. Max, if you're listening, take my money, send me an invoice.
They received directly made boxes with all the components required to assemble a product. You have all the components that are included into these boxes. So when we decide it's time for a watchmaker to do such a piece, he will receive all these boxes and you will go the gamme de montage, so step by step, up to the end to assemble the movement itself. Each of these guys will be doing the watches from A to Z, the movement, casing the movement into the case, and even attaching the straps. And once they are proud about the end results, quality check has been done, quality, aesthetics and so, then they will go to see the head of watchmaking and say, I'm done with this piece, it's okay, it can go being shipped to the client. So we maintain the one watchmaker for one caliber. It's much more complex. You need people that are highly trained to be able to do that, but they are so proud of what they are doing. And that's something that is lost now in the industrial way of doing watches. You have robots being involved, you have people doing line production when they do just 2 or 3 steps, and then they don't feel themselves as watchmakers. Everyone here in the room feel that they are watchmakers because they're actually assembling from A to Z the caliber, and at the end, when they wind, the magic happens, and you see the balance will turn.
That's amazing. I know it's hard to translate in the video as the gentleman is explaining all these details, but when he said that, that's when the goosebumps come in.
Perpetual calendar here. Amandine joined us a few months ago, and I love that. You can see she's assembling the movement, and then after, she prepared already the balance wheel with the bridge here, and at some point she will be taking the balance wheel and the bridge and posing it on at the final stage of the assembly.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you,
Good to see you.
You good?
I'm very well.
Gentlemen?
Of course, there's the product, but there's also the man behind the brand, and that is Max Büsser. He got to explain things to me. Well, just watch.
So this is Serge, who's been working with me for 16 years. He's
Hello, how are
my
you?
partner
Nice
in
to
the
meet you.
company. He's the technical genius who transforms our ideas into reality. This is something we put here because it really shows so well how we create. Most people ask me, how do you come up with these ideas? So first of all, actually, I don't know. They just pop into my head. This is a great example. You know, the Bulldog was launched in 26th of March 2020, just a week after lockdown. The first drawing is September 2012.
Wow.
8 years before, 7.5 years before. And that's my very first drawing. I'm in a bus in Japan, completely jet lagged, going to the airport from the hotel. And I have the idea of, wouldn't it be cool if a watch had jaws and it was the power reserve and it was like an animal. So these are it was actually supposed to be HM7 in 2016. It ends up 4 years later as HM10. So you see, actually, it has a bit of the HM7 with the circular system here. Then I've got maybe 2 eyes. And that's more or less the idea I have. That's how it starts usually. Come back to Geneva, see my good friend 𝗙𝗰𝗲𝗄𝗏, with whom I've been creating for 20 years and more. And we're like, okay, it's going to be a Bulldog. Tom and Jerry Bulldog, try and do something. It's hideous, absolutely horrible, all sorts of things we try. And then we morph it slowly. And there are dozens of pages like this. I mean, I could put walls of them. And from there onwards, because it's 2012, HM6 hasn't even come out. It's in the middle of the process. It comes out in 2014. I'm right in my whole spaceship thing. So it ends up looking like a spaceship. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I don't want another spaceship. So you can see the beautiful sketches from Eric, the horrible sketches from me. And so I'm like, yeah, I need really legs. I need something which looks like an animal. And it just, we go back to the drawing board. Continue, again, there are dozens of pages like that. This sort of looks like a grasshopper. And from there we get slowly to something which I feel comfortable with. And it's interesting because when you look at that and you see the process, you say, yeah, of course. The problem is when we create, we don't know where we're going. We have no idea. I mean, I started with that, and we're trying to find the right product which makes us happy, which makes us proud. but we try stuff. And that's the first thing. And it can go through dozens, hundreds of iterations before we say, yeah, that's it. The other thing which is interesting, to create a round watch, well, maybe not all round watches, but when you create a normal round watch, you don't have many, parts of the equation. It's a circle, 4 lugs, a crown, bezel, no bezel. I mean, honestly, what can go wrong?
Right.
Basically, you can, I mean, it's not that difficult, seriously, to do a nice round watch. And especially been doing it for 120 years. And the same thing is a round watch looks good from all sides because it's round, okay? When you create something like this, every single part of the design has to be thought. You've got so many moving parts of the equation. Now, the crown, is it going to be like this, like that? Is it going, the attachment, is it going to be a sphere? Is it going to be a sphere and a cone, or is it?
Meanwhile, also trying to make sure it's water resistant.
There's all the technical part, but that we get into that afterwards.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
first we try and do the greatest
but also
design.
You gotta think, well,
But while we're designing, we don't do stuff which is impossible, because otherwise it's pointless. And then, whatever you design, it has to look good like a car from all different sides, okay? A round watch looks great from all different sides because it's round. Here, you change something here and suddenly, oh, it doesn't look that good from the front. It doesn't look that good from the back. It doesn't look that good from the top. And we keep on iterating. We finally get to something where we feel comfortable. Okay, we're going there. That was just a few trials of straps. Here we're already in 3D, as you see. That's with Rhino. Before that, we're all on sketches. And we go into R&D. Have you already seen the R&D?
No,
Okay, we're going to go to the R&D. So we've got 5 fully fledged engineers. We develop now virtually, except for the Stephen McDonald, who calibers all our movements in-house. And it's I'm going to say a 2.5 to 4 year process for a movement. So we go into there, and after like 8 to 10 months, in one of the meetings, I tell the guys, I'm sorry, but I have to change something. And that's usually when everybody goes white, like, no, don't say that. And I'm like, the crown at the back, that's 𝗿𝗏𝗏𝗏. We can't have the crown at the back. So actually, Serge at that meeting says, well, maybe we can try and put the crowns in the sides here, in the haunches. And so one crown which winds it, one crown which sets the time, which means that basically 3 to 4 months of R&D, just you put it in the shredder and start all over again. End of the day, 7.5 years later, you have the product come out. It wasn't 7.5 years because it took 5 years to design or 5 years to R&D. But it was a lot of procrastinating. Also, and sometimes I was like, oh, maybe this project has to go faster, that one slower. And at the end of the day, coming out with a watch which looks like a dog, I said, maybe I've just pushed it a little bit too far, but we did it. Why
the Bulldog? Like of all animals,
So you just
It started with the dog. It was like the Jaws, Jaws. I mean, when you look at Jaws, it could be other animals, but for me, it was like a bulldog. Even though I haven't had a bulldog when I was a kid, it's not back to my child. I had a golden retriever. I was not going to make a golden retriever watch, and so from there, the interesting part here is also it was about 2.5 to 3 years of R&D internally to do this. But when you realize that we're using all the knowledge we've accumulated now for 19 years, so the flying balance wheel, already done on LM. The eyes, which are made out of these ultra-thin titanium domes, are super difficult to make, the frog. The fact of having the vertical power reserve, that was the LM1, even though it's a completely different one. But all the knowledge, the case, which is insane, but we've already done HM4, HM6, and all these other pieces. So all that knowledge which accumulates allows us to come out with that product in 2.5, 3 years of R&D. If you'd give that idea to any mainstream brand after they've finished their heart attack and they're coming back to life, it would take them probably 10 years. It's not that we're better than them, it's just over 19 years we've tried so many things, we've accumulated so much knowledge, and we can come out with a product like that in 3 years of R&D. So there you go. I think it's a great example. There are many, look, we've got 9 calibers in the pipeline now, and we've done 21. Problem is now that I'm actually not creating anything anymore, because when I arrive with an idea, the guys tell me, yeah, 2032, 2033, and I'm like, oh, no. Because I know that in 2033, the idea I've had now, I won't want to see.
Or it'll
So
change drastically.
we will, we change as we progress. You know, one thing, I created an MB&F, I had one design in mind. It was HM1. One design. I didn't have enough money. I quit my job. I create the brand with one design, which is the HM1. The HM2 is supposed to be in the same case because in those days we thought, oh, you've got a good case, so your brand is your case. And then in the middle of all that, I was like, you know what? No, let's try and do something different.
I think finally we're moving away from the hype a little bit, and horology is starting to take first place as it used to be when I started in the industry, because it was about the horology, the complication of the movement, the design, the pedigree, the history, right? And we've gotten away from that in the last few years, and people were more concerned about value and hype, the dollar amount and hype. And I think now that the hype has gone down a little bit and people are seeing that, hey, stop looking at these things as investments, look at them as art pieces and horological marvels, and it's starting to come back.
I hope we'll continue amazing. I'm pretty sure we'll got so much in the pipeline. Just don't have, we'll rest when we're dead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I say, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Exactly.
Max, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Spending time with Max is amazing, but let's check out the engineering.
When you are doing a round watch, it's pretty easy to know what will fit well on the wrist and what will not. So you can play a bit on the lugs, you can play a bit on the finishing of the edges on the case, but at the end you don't need to work so much about the overall aesthetics of the shape. However, when you start to do crazy shapes as Max, you need to spend a lot of time, as you have seen, on the design, but also making it nice and ergonomic on the wrist. But it's extremely important. Why? Because when you have shapes like that, how does it fit on the wrist? Do we need to modify the positioning of the lugs, the attachment of the straps, and so that could change a lot. And people don't realize that. Sometimes you see picture of the watch itself, you don't feel how good it feels on the wrist. The best example for me is the Bulldog. So Bulldog, we went extremely wide, and that's something like one little detail. For example, the sapphire case at the back of the Bulldog is not hemisphere. You have the hemisphere on the top, you don't have the hemisphere here. You have a flat part, which makes it even more difficult to manage, because machining a dome is easy. Machining a dome that has a flat part is much more complex. To have the right position of the wrist, you need to go through that. Because we do have the 4 rooms going around the watch, if you are wearing this way, you don't know what is the information on the other side. So you need to have a rotation. Because we need to have this rotation to be able to read the time, I'm an engineer by training myself, and I know that the torque, when the diameter is bigger, is in fact stronger than with a small crown. So why don't we use this rotation that is in fact needed for seeing the displays as the winding system for the watch? And without the other part of the watch, just to see if we could integrate inside the winding system. And we made it happen.
Because a lot of people will have the vision and say, that might be a little too difficult to execute. Oh, they have the vision, we can get away by doing this, by taking a shortcut, it'll make our life easier. You guys, you have a vision and you put it to life.
You need to have a culture within the company where everyone is allowed and even requested to be creative. Because if not, you will not take, you wouldn't take risk. You have your job description, okay, they asked me to do that, I will do what they ask me. But because Max is a creator and he expects everyone within the company to do that, and he also accepts that sometimes we propose ideas that, no, sorry, we won't make it, it's okay. Or it's failed, it's not working, it's okay. But please suggest ideas. And sometimes some of the ideas are being implemented. And it's such a difference to work for a company that allows that help the team, every team members to come out with ideas and propose something else for the product. And anyone within the organization, being the guy in the IT, the guy doing like the components behind, and so if they have an idea in marketing, if they have an idea in the new product, and so everyone can come, suggest something. And if it's a good idea, we will make it, and we'll be extremely happy to do that. That's the man who made it.
I always have a hard time picking the coolest MB&F.
But this one is pretty
so
wide.
up to date, if I had to pick one, it's been the HM6. I've yet to see this in person, and I think this might be the one post that, because it seems to be on many different levels, and that's architecture, space age design, as well as obviously the watch itself.
I love the 80s vibe.
It's 60s. It's
60s.
Yeah,
space age.
And you have to imagine that one more time. When you do a dial, pretty simple. Everyone you go to see a clock, a dial maker, you put like, okay, what font do you want to use? What's the size of the font? That's it. Here, the dial is in fact a stud. So I remember the gentleman here coming to several meetings, like month after month, and saying, oh, we could try the bolt with this diameter. We can make it in aluminum. We can make it in titanium. Let's go, guys. Do we put like the same, what's the difference between the small one and the big one here? So that's the type of things you need to decide and discuss internally before launching the product. Whereas when it's just a basic dial, I mean, yeah, after a few minutes, okay, we put that, we change maybe 10% extra of the font, and that's it.
So was this inspired by the Nielsen clock?
Yes,
Okay.
it is inspired by the
Just-
Nielsen clock. Yeah.
So this is why when Max comes up with an idea, engineers tend to lose hair afterwards.
That's exactly that. You see us?
This is amazing. Awkward. Jason couldn't hold his laughter. He had to make an exit.
Two propellers on the back, and our dear Bulldog that Max was presented in the rose gold version here.
I haven't seen it in rose gold either. It's just,
See the flat part I was
yeah,
speaking
I see it
about?
right here. Well, because it wouldn't be comfortable to wear otherwise. So I have to tell you, this is the one I've been looking forward to seeing. I have not seen these in person. I've seen the versions of them, but nuts, absolutely nuts. And it sits perfect.
Do you want me to adjust it for your size?
No. I tend to do this. I get an idea right away because I have a smaller than average wrist, so I'm like a good test for a watch that's like oddly shaped or oddly made. So
Here you had like the 90-degree angle, but you can also position it at 45. It even looks like different on the wrist. Even smaller, we have a 42 millimeter diameter
you're right.
here.
You're right. I mean, ridiculous. You know, I've always said, you know, you put on an HM and people go, what is that? But what you have done and what Max has done, it's going to continue pushing horology forward to its boundaries, yet showing people and stirring up the passion. I hate what the watch industry has become as of the last few years in terms of people first seeing dollar signs, people seeing hype, people seeing who is wearing that particular watch, bringing it back to what it's supposed to be, and that is horology. And that's, I think, what this little hobby's always been about. It's always been about horology, and I think it is the independents that are in the forefront of continuing to push the boundaries, bring big people back to what this little hobby is all about, and that's marvelous handmade design machines, which is what these are. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you for such a full-blown tour. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I just wish I wore my HM while I was here. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time, visiting us
I'm
on the
just
first
gonna-
day here in Geneva. And yeah, as we were saying, inspiring people is extremely important for us. You were speaking about the horology and pushing borders in horology, but it's not only about that. We do have few clients, or I would say MB&F lovers, even if they are not clients, that at one point came to seeing us and say, you know what, 6 months ago, I quit my job because I was a banker, I was working in insurance, and now I became a baker, or I did something like, I don't know, like I'm now like a car maker, I'm doing something. Just because you showed us that, in fact, you can go out from the traditional ways of clocking, you know, in and out, 9 in the morning, 6 p.m., going back home, and so, and do something you love and with passion. So that's what we love even more at MB&F. We love to inspire people to do what they love and to go at work and to create things they are proud of. That's the main message, even above horology itself. And we do that with the artists that we do have in our galleries, and so we love to see people that like were in the traditional ways of working and that one day just became artists and start to do the painting and to do the mechanism because that's what they love. So if we can convince from time to time someone just to be happy in what they are doing, that's what MB&F is made.
Well, I'm going to answer you by saying you're preaching to the choir, because I was the kid working in banking. I walked away from all of that to bring myself, maybe from a different angle, into the world of horology, but that what you're saying really resonates with me because this is my story. And here I am 20-some years later at the Madhouse. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
This visit really shows exactly what I've been preaching for a long time. It's that love for horology. It's doing it for the fact that you love doing it, not for a dollar. Putting something out there, not being afraid to take a chance on something that may be out of the ordinary. These are the guys that paved the way to what we see today. Just the same as we talk about guys like Louis Breguet or Audemars Piguet and all those guys that have paved the way for these guys. This is where the passion is. This is where true horology lives, and this is what it's all about. This is independent watchmaking. Comment below which MB&F you like the most. We have a lot of these separate videos coming up soon, so stay tuned.